Okay, we're back with number 9 from Kevin Hart's book, The Decision, on things you need to leave at the door before you can start his mental strength boot camp. And number 9 is blame. And I'm so glad that this one is listed because the amount of people that will blame stuff that happened to them on others, it's too common, okay? Blaming others will never move you in the right direction with your self-growth journey. And I've been guilty of this in the past, 100%. But as I've gotten older and as I've done a lot of self-growth work, I realize that when I make a decision about something, there will be some type of result, whether it's something that was good or not so good. But if I was the one that made the decision, then I'm the only one to blame. Placing blame on others will never change the situation. And although you might think it makes you feel better to just put the blame on them, like it's their fault, they're the ones that did this, and that's why the situation happened, that's never going to actually make you feel good. And if you think it does, it's just because you might just need a little bit more self-growth work. And actually, this book would be awesome for you to listen to. And I say that very kindly just in case that does trigger people, because I know when people are very gung-ho on blaming others for stuff that has happened to them, that they can be very sensitive on the topic. Obviously, there's different tiers of blame. Like if something happens to a child that was out of their control, that's not what I'm talking about here. But as an adult, if you are making a decision and you don't like the consequences of that, like say for instance, say you decided to cheat on your spouse and then they found out and no longer wanted to be with you. Well, you can't technically just blame them for you cheating. Like even if there was things going on at home that maybe led you to be more open to cheating, at the end of the day, that was still your decision. And then that was the consequence of your decision. Now, if you're like, well, what if they weren't, being very loving or kind? I wasn't getting that personal attention you should get in a marriage. Well, you had a choice. And that choice was, I need to actually conversate with my spouse, let them know how I'm feeling, what I feel I'm lacking from our marriage, and see if they're willing and open to work on that. And if they're not, then at that point, you need to make the decision of, is this marriage really going to work for me? And it might mean maybe it's not. If they're not willing and now you're feeling like you're more vulnerable to being drawn to other people's attention, then, you might have to get out of that marriage. But if you choose to just go ahead and cheat and then not talk to your spouse about things that you were lacking from your relationship, then if they find out or you decide to tell them and they want a divorce and you really didn't want a divorce, you were just seeking what you were missing from your marriage at the time, then that consequence is on you. You can't blame them for that. Communicating is key. And that's where a lot of the lines will get blurred because maybe someone didn't understand something clearly, like maybe a contract before they signed it, or maybe they didn't read a contract that they signed and then was like, oh wow, I didn't realize I was signing my rights away with this contract, or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, if you didn't do your due diligence on reading a contract or understanding someone's needs or telling someone what your needs are, if there's any kind of consequences for something that you decided to do, it's on you. So for true self-growth, let's take ownership for our own actions. Let's leave the blame at the door. And I'll be back with the next thing that you need to leave at the door for Kevin Hart's mental strength training.